starting on mine.
Oh, there we go. You're good. We're good.
Now we're good. Welcome back, guys. This is the Bleacher Preacher podcast. Johnny Boy back here again with Alex.
Hello, everyone. It's another wonderful week of football.
Yes, it was. And week 3 is now behind us. We look forward to week 4. But before moving on, I have a gripe to pick with week 3, and I'll just get it started right here. The Patriots did look pretty awful on Sunday Night Football in Detroit, and I'm not panicking quite yet, and I'll tell you why. There's typical slow start in September, which I've seen plenty of times before in this current grouping of players, which I mean Brady, Belichick, and company. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself quite yet. I still realize there are some key components that still need to come back. They were missing some guys on defense that, they did get exposed. Straight up, though, yes, they look pretty rough on Sunday night, and this shows that they do have some areas to address. I think they still have time to correct these issues, and I think they'll be okay. You definitely see how Julian Edelman being out of the offense does hurt Tom Brady right now, but once he does get back into the swing of things, I think they'll be fine. So it was a bad look this past week, but in typical New England fashion, on to Miami.
In the last time you guys went 1-2, didn't you guys make it to the Super Bowl?
I think the stat right now is the last time they lost. They lost double-digit games was 2002, but yeah, right now they're sitting at 1-2. But I think Belichick said it best was after the game in the press conference was, I don't think anybody clinched a playoff spot today, nor was anyone eliminated. So I don't think the locker room in New England's quite, shaken up quite yet. They do realize there's a lot of work to be done. And right now I don't have them as one of the 10 best teams in the NFL. There's been a much better showing, so we'll get to that here pretty soon. But I think they'll be okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So here's for the long run.
Do we have one more week, or is this the week that Edelman comes back?
We have one more week. Right now they have Miami at home, which we'll get to as well. But after this game, they will have Edelman back for the rest of the season.
So who takes a back seat? Is it going to be Josh Gordon getting limited looks, or is it going to be Chris Hogan kind of becoming the third option there?
I think we're probably going to expect Josh Gordon to slowly be integrated into this. With Chris Hogan, he's going to go back to his natural role as an outside receiver. And then you're probably going to look to see Philip Dorsett maybe try and get a little bit back on track the way we saw him in week 1. And I think the person that's probably going to be hurt the most by this, if it's even hurt, is Cordell Patterson, who has looked lost at times. So I don't think anyone's really going to miss their touches. More so things are going to go back in the right order.
Cordell Patterson has looked lost since the Vikings days.
He's been lost since Tennessee. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Okay. So my one thing for the week, or one of my things for the week, is the Browns finally getting it together against the Jets. Tyrod Taylor goes down early in the first half. Baker Mayfield looks like a number 1 overall pick, making really, really good decisions, making firm throws, making, just being fearless out there, having 100% confidence in his team and himself. And, that's really my biggest takeaway. I definitely don't think it was just a Baker Mayfield win. I think that's a Browns win. But, of course, that's going to be on the quarterback since he's the quarterback. And he looked great. I think in the draft, when draft time was coming around, everyone had kind of discussed, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Sam Darnold are your your quarterbacks of the future. We have no idea about Baker Mayfield, right? Walk on at Oklahoma, never got a legitimate chance, and he's a true underdog story. So love to hear it, love to see it. Definitely super inspiring. But no, I think that he made amazing decisions out there. Something that if you guys were watching the game, hopefully you saw. He did that little the Philly special, and I know John's probably boiling right now, but it got him within shouting distance, and it went the right way once for in Cleveland. Now, I will say that there was definitely some mix-ups there. I mean, lots of plays where if you go back and look, the Browns made it hard on themselves. But hey, for once, like I said, it broke their way.
I think you nailed it right there, Alex, saying that Baker Mayfield was a spark for the entire team, because once he stepped in, everyone raised their game up a little bit. So I think this is going to be something good for Cleveland. God knows they need it. So typical Jets, though. It just had to be the Jets that did this, right?
Well, the fact that it was the Jets didn't surprise me. I mean, it's Jets fashion, but the Jets really just kept shooting themselves in the foot the entire game. Couldn't get an offense going, left points on the table, especially against a team, a rookie quarterback. It was weird. They kind of stopped rushing. They rushed 3 and 4 and just kind of waited for Baker to make a mistake, and he didn't make one. So that's kind of what I saw out of that game, is the fact that it seemed like Baker Mayfield was just really extremely patient, and the Jets let him be extremely patient by not forcing him to make any decisions that he didn't have to make.
No, exactly. They never made him uncomfortable. They let him kind of get into his groove and slowly picked apart the Jets. The other point I had from this past week 3 is the Patrick Mahomes experience continues to roll on. He tosses 3 more touchdowns, but what kind of bummed me out was on the other side with San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo is now out for the year with a torn ACL. Tough break, man, for San Francisco. A lot of people had San Fran picked as like the upcoming team, and now it looks like it's going to have to wait another year, as Jimmy's now going to miss the rest of the season. So this is kind of going to open things up a little bit in the NFC, because now I don't see the Niners really pushing for any kind of playoff spot now. We expected the Rams to run away with the NFC West, but now you look at the wildcard picture here, I think now it's going to be a little more open for a team like maybe Chicago or one of the other NFC East teams to maybe sneak right in. We know the NFC South is going to be a bloodbath as well, but again, just a tough break for Jimmy and the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely sad, especially for the players that you could kind of already see Jimmy was building rapport with. I mean, Greg Kittle. Is it Greg? I don't remember. Kittle. Yeah, he was getting a lot of targets. You didn't really see Pierre Garcon really develop in that offense, but you were kind of hoping that would start clicking. Marquise Goodwin also has had a very good couple of weeks, so definitely hurts. And not only that, but you've got Breda questionable, and now you're going to go out there with CJ Beathard. Is it Beathard? Beathard. So CJ Beathard and your third string running back at this point, Alfred Morris.
It's tough sledding right now in San Francisco, so we'll see what comes of it. And your last point, Alex.
For me, it's got to be Fitzmagic and the Steelers. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you look at the stats on paper, it's amazing, right? 30 of 50, 411 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But that's really the big one, is those 3 interceptions. I mean, Steelers took advantage. It looked like it was over in the first half. It was, if I'm not mistaken, 30-7 going into halftime, and it didn't look close. Tampa Bay did a valiant effort trying to score some points there in the second half. Weren't able to really make it all the way back, but I think this is what we see out of Ryan Fitzpatrick every team every year. I mean, John kind of mentioned it last time. It's 1 week he's stellar, he's amazing, he looks like he should be getting a multi-bajillion-dollar NFL contract, and then the next week he looks like he doesn't know what a cover 2 is and a cover 4 is. So that's really my big thing. I think Pittsburgh also kind of definitely showed efficiency. Ben Roethlisberger went 30 of 38, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. James Conner continues to roll on. Juju Smith-Schuster, Vance McDonald, both with over 100 yards, and AB still caught a touchdown with for 50 yards. So, after all that weirdness earlier in the week of Antonio Brown not showing up to practice and kind of the something that we had mentioned before about the inmates running the asylum, Pittsburgh finds a way. I will say a third thing, just real quick. Giants finally got a win. Thank you.
Yeah, that they did when they sorely needed. So on those notes, we will go on to week 4, which starts out in Los Angeles. The Rams will be hosting the Vikings, which a lot of people thought would be a potential playoff matchup. A weird Thursday night game in the sense of you normally don't see like two premier teams, like two teams are in the playoffs last year. So short week for the Vikings to go out west, and the Rams are looking pretty solid right now. But Thursday night things that can happen, but I think the Rams are going to take care of business.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rams take care of business. I think Goff and Gurley and the way Cooper Kupp, and I mean not just Cooper Kupp, but you've got all those guys down there that are receiving. Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. They're all spectacular right now. So definitely is good to see that the Rams are. I mean they're the favorite, right? They're the favorite right now in that division. Minnesota kind of came stumbling out of the gates. John sent me a very funny video of a Vikings fan literally going, "How are we losing this bad to the Bills?" But I think every team is going to have those weeks, right? They're going to have those bad weeks where everything just goes to the dumpster. So it sucks coming on a short week, but maybe that short week also is an advantage for the Vikings in terms of not having to really go out there and game plan as much. They just have to go out there and play. So, that's kind of the thing that I have to say about the Vikings. I think it's definitely going to help them.
No, it'll definitely be an interesting game to keep an eye on. Going to Sunday, the first game up is the Dolphins going to Foxborough to play the Patriots. Already kind of groomed over the Patriots situation, what they're looking at right now. Right now, Miami's in first place undefeated at 3-0 in the AFC East. So this is kind of a pretty important game right now as far as the standings are concerned. But I expect Brady and company to, turn this ship around at home. But don't sleep on a very determined Dolphins team to push the Patriots a little bit. And I could see this being a 3-point or less game.
Yeah, agreed. I think the Patriots can't afford to go 1-3, and the Dolphins would be the shock of the century if they went 4-0. So I don't think in week 4 any game is a must win, but I think for the Patriots it's definitely a must win in the terms of you don't want to be 2 games under 500, right? For the Dolphins, it seems like things are really getting started well down there, and I think where we're really going to see this benefit is towards the end of the seasons, right? Week 16 and week 17. If they've already got 3 wins in their pocket, I mean, realistically speaking, they only need to win about 5 more games in 13 weeks. So just to give themselves a chance. So I think that's kind of the good thing for Miami. Miami's trying to go 4-0 for the first time since 1995. I don't think they'll do it. If I'm being honest, I definitely think it's going to be a close game. I'd say a 3-point game as well.
For New England's sake, because I mean, if you got the Patriots slipping up that much, you go right into Red Sox postseason baseball, and we know how that could play out. So could be a tough time in the New England threshold. So keep a close eye out, as well as my well-being.
Steven Gostkowski is going to be the MVP of this game.
As he should be. Next game, the Bengals go to Atlanta. Atlanta's coming off a tough home overtime loss to the New Orleans Saints, which was an absolute shootout. Drew Brees going for 6 total touchdowns. The Bengals also coming off a loss to the Panthers as well. So both teams reeling a little bit here. It was good to see the Falcons get back on track a little bit, but Cincinnati's not to be taken lightly at the same time. I'm going to have to go with the home team on this one. I think the Falcons finally get things back on track here. They are still missing Devonta Freeman, though, so expect Tevin Coleman to get another pretty good workload in. I still like the Falcons in this one. How about you?
I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go Bengals. The reason being is because I think it's really, really interesting what Andy Dalton is doing with that receiving core and the way he's working in Tyler Eifert. And, Tyler Boyd had himself a game last week. So, I know we'll get to fantasy in a minute, but he was on the waiver wire for a lot of leagues. So, kind of impressive. I think another thing that definitely should be highlighted here is AJ Green and Julio Jones, top wide receivers from the 2011 draft going up against each other. They're both going to try and show out for their respective teams. So I definitely think it's a Bengals away. And I think as bad as it sounds, I think the Falcons championship window, quote unquote, it's closing faster than you think.
Closing faster than a 28-3 lead.
That's pretty accurate.
There's something still off about that, and I think it's still translating to that game.
I mean, we've talked about this in the past. It's still affecting them.
They still see ghosts, which is kind of scary, but
yeah, 100%. I think they're still haunted by it every single time they step on a field, and it's probably not going to go away until Matt Ryan goes away.
It's something to keep an eye on to see if it still carries on that way. Next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Chicago Bears. Nothing on earth can stop Khalil Mack from getting sacks and fumbles right now, so I think that's going to be a trend that continues on here. But to Alex's point earlier is that Ryan Fitzpatrick is still putting up 400 yards and touchdowns galore, but Jameis Winston is eligible to come back, and no starter has been officially named yet. I mean, it still has to be Fitzpatrick. If the Buccaneers have any form of logic, I would hope so. But I would still think that regardless of who the Buccaneers put at quarterback, I like the Bears, especially their defense, to really take charge in this game. And I think they'll handle the Bucs.
Agreed. John, serious question. If in week 4 I would have told you that the Bears lead the NFC North and the Buccaneers lead the NFC South, how would you respond to that at the beginning of the season?
Perplexed. Definitely perplexed. Because
incredibly perplexed, right? So incredibly a battle of first place teams. I'm really, really liking the Bears defense, not just because of the return of the Mac, cue the song, but also because, I think it's really, really funny the fact that the Bears are 2-1 and the Oakland Raiders are 0-3. Let's just state facts here, right? I think it's very rare in the NFL that one player makes that big of a difference in terms of, that's not a quarterback, I guess I should say that, in terms of making such a big difference on a team. But Khalil Mack is that guy. For Tampa, this dirt cutter haziness that we don't know who's starting this game, I think it's a distraction. I think it's terrible. And Dirk, you need to cut that shit out. Like, name a starter. Name a starter, stick with him, support him.
As he should have. So, again, if the Buccaneers are smart, just keep Fitzpatrick in. You don't want to disrupt. Like, if the Buccaneers would have had maybe an extra 2 or 3 minutes in that game on Monday night, they probably catch the Steelers, if not beat them. But Fitzpatrick got him back in after some poor throws. So I'd say keep him in.
And it seems like Fitzpatrick is liking Mikey Evans so far. So, hey, keep throwing it to him. He's catching him.
And Deshaun Jackson, who is on his turbo button. Next game, the Detroit Lions, coming off a big Sunday night win at home, traveled to Dallas to play the Cowboys. I cannot really get a pulse on this Cowboys team. They just look so – they look like an outright mess on offense sometimes. There's still no threat on the outside, and Dak can't get the ball out. If it's not Zeke Elliott, there's nothing really, and teams are just stacking the line. So I like Detroit's chances in this game. I think they'll be able to control the line of scrimmage again. And if Matt Stafford can have another performance like he did last week, take care of the ball, spread the ball out a little bit here, get everyone involved, get some help from the running game too, I think Detroit will go into Dallas and leave with a win.
Agreed. I think Detroit wins this game. I think the best part of the Cowboys team is their front seven on defense. I think they just put so much pressure on the quarterback. So, I mean, last week, they gave up 24 points to the Seahawks. Week 2, they gave up 13 points to the Giants. And, they only gave up 16 points to the Panthers in week 1. So it's not a question of who's giving them a chance to play where. It's now more so a question of what can the offense produce. Now, Dak, since week 1 or since year 1 of in the NFL, has been he's gone through a sophomore slump, and we need to see that comeback season. So haven't seen it yet. Who knows? Maybe he breaks out this game. And you can see it. Zeke is getting frustrated. Zeke knows that line is good enough and this offense is good enough. But, if you're kind of, what's the best way to put it? If the defense already knows what you're going to do, then there's really no chance here that your offense is going to click. So I think it's too one-dimensional down there in Dallas. And I think the Lions, with the Marvin Jones and everyone else they've got on that offense, it's versatile. Their defense keeps them in games. So because as we both know, Patricia's a defense guy first. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think the Lions go into AT&T and bring out a win.
No, I think that's going to be the plan here. So Dallas needs to make some adjustments. They need to make things a little easier here for Dak. Like we said, until he can actually spread the ball out and actually give the defense respect his passing, it's just going to be a tough go-around for Zeke. Our next game, there it is. The Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen are going to the real Wisconsin this time to play the Green Bay Packers. Josh Allen goes into Minnesota, and the Bills shock the Vikings for a pretty easy win. And on the other side, we have the Packers, who are looking a little suspect right now. I know Aaron Rodgers still is not 100%. Something with him doesn't look right. And on the other side of that is Clay Matthews apparently can't touch the quarterback without getting a personal foul. So that's actually starting to become pretty funny. But the Packers should take care of business. I mean, the Bills did have a pretty emotional win last week, but I just don't see it happening 2 weeks in a row. And I think Lambeau's a little bit tougher to play in for a rookie. So I should expect the Packers to win, but the weirder things have happened in the past week or so.
Is Vontae Davis playing this game?
No, he is still retired.
Okay. Well, perfect. Then definitely think along the same lines as you, John. I think the Packers are too good to lose to the Bills. I think, I think we said this last week that the reason that Aaron Rodgers was forced to throw so much against the Vikings and that ended up in that tie is because they were behind the whole game. So if they've got a lead and they're more comfortable, they can give the ball off to Jamal Williams, do have a little bit more versatility instead of just like Aaron Rodgers going out there and going like, hey, I'm just going to chuck it down the field, see who's open. I think that's something that we're going to see here is they're going to go out in front early. They're not going to look back, not let the Bills get a chance. So definitely think it's a Packers game. Interesting little tidbit though. The Bills have 5 straight wins against the NFC North. Just saying. It is a fact. So, let's see. Well, which one of the Buffalo is it? Rosen or Allen?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Okay.
Rosen is in Arizona.
Allen had that sweet little hurdle over over the Vikings, and then we'll get to the Vikings here in a second. So, but I do have something to say about them.
We already talked about the Vikings. They play Thursday night.
Oh crap, they do. But I did want to say that Everson Griffin beef is a little weird.
Yeah, there's a weird off the field issue going on with him right now, and until the facts come out, but from what I've seen thus far, that's a strange situation, and I hope everything gets figured out because goddamn.
Well, not only for the team's sake, but for his own mental health.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's heavy for any human to take, never mind a professional football player. All the best to him. Our next game now, the Philadelphia Eagles are going down to Tennessee to play the Titans. The Eagles now have Carson Wentz back as their full-time starter. They were able to pull out a tough home win against the Colts last week in Wentz's first return or his first start back as the starter. So Philly has their full, or they're back full strength pretty much. They are still missing some guys with banged up injuries, but having Wentz back does make a big difference for him. This is one of those games where I look at and I don't know what Tennessee team is going to show up, and I don't know what Philadelphia team is going to show up, because we've seen good Philly, bad Philly, and we've seen good Tennessee and bad Tennessee. For Tennessee's sake, though, you're dealing with an injured Marcus Mariota right now, so I don't know how much he can really give them right now. I still expect Philly, though, to win this game. I just don't know how it's going to play out, as vague as it sounds. There's no real pulse or real storyline to it. What do you got?
No, I think you're spot on. I think it's going to be a coming out party for Carson Wentz. It's going to be his first game in a little under a year. I think Mariota, I did read today that he's going to start, but at what, kind of like last week, at what capacity is he going to be really able to perform? So that's definitely a big question. Both sitting at a 2-1 record. So very, very kind of, it's going to be 500 for one team, 3-1 for another. Kind of changes how you look at the rest of the season, especially if you're 2-2 or 3-1. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an Eagles win to be had, but I wouldn't discount the Titans here, considering they're playing at home, and like you said, we've seen good Tennessee and bad Tennessee.
No, and I think what Tennessee at least has going in their favor is that they're going to be carrying their attitude of their new head coach of, be nasty, be physical, really take the fight to these guys. So I don't think that's going to be an easy game for Philadelphia, but I still expect them to win. Next, the Texans traveled to Indianapolis to play the Colts. The Texans are still without a win this season, and it's making the hot seat a little more hot for Bill O'Brien right now. Definitely one of the more disappointing teams thus far this season. We haven't seen Deshaun Watson really get on track yet, and J.J. Watt did have a decent showing last week, but the rest of the defense was still a little flat as well, and not really supporting the cause there. But for Houston's sake, at some point, you just got to really get this on track. To their credit, though, this is week 4, and they're already playing their 3rd road game, so they've definitely had a little bit of bad luck on the schedule side of things. But I'm expecting Houston to they got to get things turned around here quick, because they're already far behind, and it's hard to play catch up in the NFL when you're already 3 back. For the Indianapolis side of things, what is Andrew Luck's limitations here? Because we saw at the end of the game that he wasn't able to throw the Hail Mary down to the end zone, that they had to bring in Jacoby Brissett. So I know Andrew Luck is back in the fold as a starter, but we don't know how good he is yet, or is this going to be his full limitations, to where is he going to be able to push the ball downfield? How much zip is on the arm, and is he able to stay healthy? So I'm going with Houston to get their first win this game.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking along the same lines. Kind of like what was it? Was it week 2 that we had the Titans and who else played? The game that I totally messed up, and Blaine Gabbert was the one that was starting, not Mariota. I don't remember. But anyway, this game is really interesting to me. I'm just gonna keep saying it. I think it's a game that's on the schedule, and neither team is really like, woo, this is exciting. But I I think the Texans do win it, just based off of what I saw them against the Giants. Now it is hard to make the Giants' offensive line look decent, and the Texans made it look decent, considering the fact that the only person getting any pressure on Eli Manning was J.J. Watt. So definitely, that's my opinion. I think the Colts have a lot of really just unsharpened tools in the shed here in terms of offense. I mean, I love Marlon Mack, and I think that he's going to be a running back to be feared here in the future, but we haven't seen it yet, right? He's still hurt. And I think I think you said it perfectly, John. Andrew Luck, what's his limitations? Should he even be playing right now if he can't even make a Hail Mary throw down in the end zone? So yeah, I think it's a very uninteresting game, like I said, but if somebody's gonna win it, it's gonna be Houston.
Fair enough. I think that's the right way to go. Our next game travel down to Jacksonville, a very unimpressive showing last week, losing 9-6 to Tennessee. That's a game, like I said, that just kind of makes my brain hurt a little bit. But equally as frustrating was the Jets loss to the Browns, giving them their first win in 600 odd days. So two teams coming off very frustrating losses. So I think both of these guys will be looking to get things back on track. The way I'm looking at this right now, you have Sam Darnold, the rookie quarterback, facing a very pissed off defense for the Jaguars. So I think that's a pretty easy way of putting it. So I would expect Jacksonville to get this turned around and back on track here, kind of get that nasty hangover from last week out of their or out of their visuals, whatever you want to call it. I think they'll turn around. I think they end up feasting on the Jets, honestly. I see this as at least a 2-3 score game.
Sorry. Yes, agreed. I think this is going to be Sam Darnold's first real test in terms of can he make the right read and not commit stupid turnovers. I can definitely see Jalen Ramsey or someone on that defense just completely embarrassing Sam Darnold at some point. So that's definitely something. I think where the Jets are going to find the most success is in the running game. You've got Bilal Powell, you've got Isaiah Crowell, so they need to kind of take advantage of that and lull this defense to sleep, and then try to get some offense in the air when you've kind of done that. For the Jags, I think it's don't change anything. It was a 9-6 frustrating game. Your defense kept you in it. Your offenses couldn't pull it together. But those games are going to happen. Your things aren't going to go your way. You're going to lose a close game. But that shouldn't phase Jacksonville in the slightest. And I think they just need to keep going out there and do exactly what they've been doing, because the fact they're going to lose games, it's very hard to go undefeated in this league. So that's one they just got to chalk it up to. It wasn't their day. But I love this Jags team. I think they're poised to get back to an NFC championship game. So
NFC?
AFC, whatever. I had a 50-50 shot. I didn't remember.
It's all good. It's Jacksonville. There's not really a lot of news coming out of that city, but I think you're right on it that Jacksonville, get your crap together. You're better than this. Don't only put up 6 points after having the showing of a lifetime against the Patriots. Like there's more football to be played than just 1 week. So, here's a burner for you. The Cleveland Browns, with new starter Baker Mayfield, are going out to Oakland to play the Raiders, who are also in a very peculiar spot because John Gruden right now has not really shown much to really get excited for. The Raiders have had leads in the second half, I've been in the game they've had a chance to win their games outside of their Monday night opener where they kind of fell apart in the second half. But 2 straight weeks now, they've had a lead in the second half and surrendered the leads. And I think that's honestly come down to coaching and preparation. But you keep hearing Coach Gruden say week after week, oh, pass rushing is hard to come by. We just can't generate it out of nowhere. I'm sorry, but it's already showing its ugly side of the Raiders botched this trade. The miscommunication between GM and head coach cost them a perennial player. And now they're stuck with a lackluster defense and an inefficient offense right now. So I don't think things are going to get better in Oakland anytime soon. And what's going to be a good measure is that you have a relieved Browns team coming into town. And yes, Baker Mayfield is now the starter, but what do you expect from him in his first real start?
Against this defense, I expect a lot. I expect this to be kind of I kind of see this as a shootout, really. I think it's going to be some kind of ridiculous score like 38-35. Now, I want Cleveland to win, but playing at home at the Oakland Alameda Coliseum, as it is called right now, it's hard. And the Oakland fans are also going to be pretty juiced, considering the Athletics have just clinched a playoff spot. And
Hi, Oakland A's.
I mean, there's not going to be any baseball there played there for the rest of the season if the Yankees have anything to do about it. But we'll see. And then so yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is a Baker Mayfield time to kind of prove that he's worth his salt. So I hope that he's going to be successful. I think one thing that you also saw in the win that they got against the Jets is Carlos Hyde was used very, very effectively. So you're going to have to keep going with that. This game isn't going to be won in the air. It's going to be definitely won on the ground with Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, and on the other side you've got Marshawn, Doug Martin, Jalen Richard, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't foresee these two quarterbacks having 50 passes at the end of this. I think it's going to be running game, really led offense on both sides. For John Gruden's sake, the Raiders cannot go 0-4.
No, if they go 0-4, oof, that's going to make things a little bit harder, because where the answer is going to come from? Like, how many more excuses can they really generate at this point? And yeah, you can blame, different factors of not having a pass rush, which he gave away, or Derek Carr not making reads that he should be, or spraying the ball as much. I just don't think the excuses in Oakland are going to cut it much longer if they end up to 0-4, especially with the team. I think that they should be in the Browns, but I'm giving it like 5% confidence.
Yeah, this game's a toss-up, 100%. You don't know who's going to win. I think the Raiders, if you're looking at like betting lines, have the edge just because of their home team. But I don't know. I like Baker Mayfield. I'm high on him. I'm hoping he's really successful, and he kind of shows it here.
I think it'll be a highlight game, though, so I'll definitely have to check it out. The next afternoon game, the Seahawks are going down to Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Cardinals just named Josh Rosen their starter over Sam Bradford, so that heist is done and over with. The Seahawks did finally get in the win column last week. They took care of business at home against the Cowboys, so Russell Wilson and company finally get on track here, and I think they go down to Arizona and knock around the kid Josh Rosen for 4 quarters and leave Arizona with a pretty easy win.
Fun stats. The Cardinals are ranked 32nd in passing, 32nd in rushing, and guess what? 32nd in overall offense. Their defense ain't much better. It's ranked 25th in the league.
And because they have solid players on both sides of the ball. Your running backs, David Johnson. You still have Larry Fitzgerald as one of your wide receivers. On defense, you have Chandler Jones and Patrick Peterson. So they have guys there, but it's been a tough go for Steve Wilkes in his first season.
I mean, the Cardinals are bad and they should feel bad. That's the way I'm going to think about it. The Seahawks are not terrible, but they should feel bad. They sometimes they just look so I don't know if the best way to put it is the fact that they look scared to play football at times, and what I mean by that is that like they just don't look like a cohesive unit. I think you kind of saw it last week, even though they did end up beating the Cowboys. There was times where the Seahawks were kind of like taking the foot off the gas, and I think the highlight of last week was Earl Thomas. So kind of getting back in the groove of things, looking like the guy that he is out there. But again, I think it's a toss up. I think the Cardinals have the edge for me just because they're the home team. But I think the Cardinals also can't afford to go 0-3 if they kind of want to, or 0-4 if they want to kind of stick around here.
Also for Seattle, they did get Doug Baldwin back in practice today, so that could be someone that could definitely help Russell here in the next couple of weeks because their receivers were having trouble getting open. So having Baldwin out there, I think will make a huge difference for Russell. Our next afternoon game, the New Orleans Saints go up to East Rutherford, New Jersey, and take on the New York Football Giants. The Saints coming off a huge road win down in Atlanta that saw Drew Brees put up 6 touchdowns, 6 combined touchdowns on the air and in the air and on the ground. Excuse me. And like Alex had mentioned, the Giants finally got their first win last week. So, without diving too far into it, Alex, what do the Giants have to do to win this game?
They have to give the ball to Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham. Plain and simple. That Saints defense is bad. They need to exploit that. They need to make sure that these guys are getting the ball and they're taking advantage of it. Now, on the other side of it, you've got Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, kind of almost comparable guys, right? They're kind of close in comparison when you look at guys like Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham. I mean, we're also missing one weapon here. It seems like Evan Ingram's going to be out for a couple weeks with a MCL sprain, if I'm not mistaken. So the guy there is Rhett Ellison, who's mostly known for his blocking. But I also kind of am hoping that Sterling Shepard has a big game down against the Saints. And then, for the Saints, I think it really just depends on the Drew Brees that shows up. Is it going to be the Drew Brees that throws 6 touchdowns, or is it Drew Brees that throws 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions?
And I think what's going to be actually pretty funny to pay attention to is how well the Giants can block. I want to see if they'll even let Eric Flowers into the stadium.
No, he got benched last week. Oh,
I know he was benched, and he should have been benched a while ago, but at what point do the Giants just recognize this is someone that we can't rely on whatsoever and just outright kick the guy out?
Well, I mean, he was a first-round pick, and in that sense, like, he is a bust. But I also, first-round picks happen that way. It is what it is. Not every first-round pick has ever panned out. So, at that point, the Giants just have to go, you know what? We tried, and we're just going to restart here and try to find another player there. I will say, like I said, that the Giants line looked a little bit better against the Texans, so that was positive. But at the same time, it's still shaky. Always will be until we really solidify that back.
And I think that's at least a step in the right direction. So I'm going to have to go with the Saints in this game, though. I just don't think the Giants have the firepower to stay with them. I like Drew Brees a little bit more than Eli Manning, but this will be – you remember a few years ago when they played each other and it was like 52 to like 48 or something ridiculous like that?
It's going to be the same thing.
No, exactly. It's going to be a flag football game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no tackling, just, okay, last team who gets the ball wins is my opinion. I do know that the Giants are home dogs, though. So they are, if I was a betting man, I would definitely put money on the Giants. Just, home dogs are hard to come by. So.
All righty. So after that, the San Francisco 49ers go down to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Niners now without Jimmy Garoppolo for the rest of the season. It is CJ Beathard at quarterback. So this is going to be a tough Niners team to pay attention to now, because now you've lost your starting quarterback in Garoppolo. You've lost your starting running back in Jerick McKinnon. I don't see much optimism now for the 49ers going forward. So for the Chargers, you're coming off a pretty frustrating loss to the LA Rams. So I think Phillip Rivers and company should be able to take care of business here. What I did like last week, though, was Rivers getting the ball downfield to Mike Williams, their first-round pick from last year, and how dynamic their passing attack can be with Williams, Keenan Allen, as well as Tyrell Williams. So I think the Chargers will take care of business here fairly easily, and I think it's going to now be a long autumn and winter now for the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the 49ers, it's definitely, at this point, you kind of just got to wait until next year. I think for there was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, I kind of joked around in one of my fantasy football leagues, and I think the 49ers should just give a call to Colin Kaepernick. See how he feels about coming back for 14 games and see.
No hard feelings, right?
Yeah, just ask him, hey, are you cool with taking like a quick break from collecting Nike checks so that you can come play for us for a little bit? But that's okay. The 49ers they got to kind of just reset right now. For the Chargers, Phillip Rivers has looked good in the first 3 games. I think we're going to see more of the same here. Someone you didn't even mention, John Melvin Gordon. He's Melvin Gordon, right? So he's going to keep on producing. Funny enough, the 49ers are ranked second in rushing, and the Chargers are 9th. So we'll see if that changes after this week.
The Sunday night game, the Baltimore Ravens go to Pittsburgh to play their rival. These games are always fun. They're always nasty. They're always competitive. They're always close. Baltimore has looked pretty good thus far this year. Joe Flacco really kind of getting his act back together, but it also helps his weapons have been much improved this year. Michael Crabtree, me and Rob like to call him QJB, questionable John Brown, has reemerged as a legitimate deep threat with Flacco. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Ravens thus far. We had talked about a little bit about the Steelers at the jump with their drama from the past couple of weeks with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown kind of making some off-the-radar comments. So with all that said, though, this is a game that always tends to come down to the last possession. I'm going to have to lean a little bit towards the Steelers on this one just because I like their ability to put points up at a little bit more ease, and that just comes down to Big Ben's ability to make more throws. I look at that Monday night game, and he was back to looking like Big Ben again. And with James Conner running as angry as he has been, it's almost starting to become Le'Veon who. So I think Pittsburgh defends home field here, and I think they take care of business against the Ravens.
Yeah, agreed. I think I'm going to give the Steelers the edge here too. Cool thing, it's the Steelers are the number 2 ranked offense, and the Ravens are the number 1 ranked defense. So that's going to be a really cool matchup to see. I think that that it's really the tale of what can the Steelers produce versus what can the Ravens do. We've seen bad Joe Flacco and good Joe Flacco this season already. In terms of the defense, though, they've been consistent on the Baltimore side. They've done all the right things, so they look good. And I think this is another one of those games where, you kind of look at week 4 and you're kind of like, okay, doesn't determine a lot about the season, but for the Ravens, 2-2 is a little bit more scary is a little bit less scary than the Pittsburgh Steelers going 1-2-1.
It's again, I think it just is how these two teams want to play each other. Sometimes they're really close, other times it's a blowout. So we'll see. The Monday night game, the Kansas City Chiefs go to the Mile High City to play the Denver Broncos. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is probably the MVP of the NFL thus far. Right now, he has set the record for most touchdown passes through the first 3 games of a season, breaking Tom Brady's old record. So the Chiefs' offense is for real right now, and they still haven't gotten to their full potential yet, which is kind of scary. But I think they actually have a legitimate test in front of them with the Denver defense. Von Miller is still a all-pro pass rusher, so he's going to be hard to contain. I also know some weird things tend to happen in Denver, not only with the altitude, but just that home field advantage as a whole. This is going to be a tough game for Kansas City, but I think they're going to take care of business here, and I see them win this game by a touchdown.
Actually, it's kind of funny that you said home field advantage at Denver, but this is the other game that Denver's a home dog. Everyone's kind of on the Patrick Mahomes hype, which honestly this should be. He's been very impressive, coming out of Texas Tech and looking really, really good. I think I've seen a lot of ESPN does those cool little side-by-sides of when Oklahoma and Texas Tech played each other, and the way that Mahomes and Baker Mayfield, they just had disgustingly high stats. So for Denver, I think it's really just kind of how do you manage the offense. Let's hope Philip Lindsay doesn't get ejected again. Royce Freeman had himself a game, so that may be bad for Philip Lindsay here. I'm just saying, go Ducks. Royce Freeman, my boy. For Mahomes, it's keep doing what you're doing. You're looking great out there. You're distributing the ball. You're getting Hunt involved. You're getting Tyreek Hill. You're getting Travis Kelce involved. Nothing's broken. Don't fix it. So definitely think for Kansas City, that's the way it's going to go. I am also going to give the edge here to Kansas City. Simply because I think that they're a better overall team. But I will say this about Kansas City, 32nd ranked defense.
No, their defense, with the leads they've been giving every game, has become surprisingly close at some point. So that might be something to keep an eye on. But I would expect Denver to try and play keep away as much as possible with, like you said, Royce Freeman as well as Philip Lindsay. So I think that'll be another good Monday night game. That pretty much that's everything for week 4. Before we go, let's get in our fantasy minute rant. I finally won a game. Thank you, Matt Ryan. Thank the heavens. It wasn't really that close. Sorry, Andy, for the birthday spoiler, but it was about time my team got it together. For once, I actually had a decent lineup out there. Everybody wanted to act right, so thank God. But it's just 1 week, so now we're – like the Patriots, we're going on to week 4.
I think I'm in like 6 or 5 leagues. I don't even know, but I think I went like 500. For me, I think my best overall performer, James White, had a really good game. Had a touchdown on only 4 carries, but went 3 for 3 on receptions. Guy that really surprised me, Chris Carson. Kind of had a really bad first couple of weeks. This week had 32 carries, 102 yards, a touchdown. So hoping to see a little bit more out of the same. I definitely drafted him thinking he was going to be involved more in the offense early on.
32 carries for Chris Carson last week, 3 for Rashard Penny. I have Rashard Penny on my bench because, the rookie's going to get looks here. He's got that explosion and everything. Came into camp out of shape, had an underwhelming preseason, and he has been a complete he's been a poop noise. That's the best way I can do it, just poop noise.
Another thing, another kind of awesome thing is that I do want to say, Will Fuller also had himself a game. 5 of 11, 101 yards and a touchdown.
Ever since he came back, the Texans offense has looked better. Deshaun Watson is a more comfortable quarterback when he has a legitimate deep threat to go along with DeAndre Hopkins. So if you guys do see Will Fuller in your leagues, give him a look for your waiver wire pickup. My big pickup last week was Kenny Golladay. I know the Patriots are going to be down a corner, and he actually ended up getting one of the touchdown receptions for the Lions. as well as 6 other catches on the night. So definitely dictate your matchups, guys. Look at your waiver wire, see what you can get for free.
Yeah, and I'm going to definitely talk about 2 disappointments. Stephon Diggs got me 0 points on 4 receptions and 17 yards, and that's only because we get minus a point for a loss there. So he would have given me 1 point. And then I think the owners of Gronkowski are starting to get angry, man. It's bad. You know, I think he only had like 5 points this week. He had 4 on our league only because he lost, but he had 5 in normal format. And, you know, I don't know what it is, but, you know, he said that he was back in it just because he knew that Tom Brady was his quarterback. But, you know, I'm worried about him. He had 0 points in week 1 and week 2.
You got to look at it like this. He's going to be double and triple team until someone on the New England offense can win a matchup. So when Edelman and Gordon get into the fold here, maybe things loosen up a little bit more for Gronkowski. But because no one else on the New England offense has given any defense a reason to even be worried, the coverages are going to be tough on Gronk. So I would also stress patience with him. I still think he's going to be fine, but give it time, guys. We're on week 4 here.
All right. Yeah, that's it really for fantasy. I think if
it's still a trash ass thing. I still hate it.
I know the guys that are trending the most right now. If you don't have Calvin Ridley, go pick him up. Tyler Boyd has also had himself a game. Do yourself a favor. Don't pick up Baker Mayfield this week. Just give it another week. May want to take a look at Buck Allen out down there in Baltimore.
You know, Tristan right now is undefeated in our league.
Well, I mean, he did win $100 from Norman.
Right. Well, how did we let this happen? He has Todd Gurley, James Conner, Tyreek Hill. Well, I know he picked up James Conner right when Le'Veon Bell started pouting. So, and then he also snatched up.
Didn't he draft Le'Veon Bell?
No, he did not. But he does have Carson Wentz on his bench, along with Sony Michel. And yeah, he's looking all right now.
Well,
but again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I don't care if you start 3-0.
Yeah, exactly. You got to win. You got to win the games at the end, not the games now. So I'm 2-1, which is I'm okay with. I'm okay with that. I think I'm playing Tristan this week, and I'm only projected to lose by 5 points.
That can always change. I hate projections, but we want to thank you guys for listening to this week's episode. We always enjoy doing the NFL one, so we look forward to next week as well. You can follow the show on Twitter at Bleach Preach Pod. We're also on Instagram at Bleacher Preacher Podcast, where no content ever gets posted because, God forbid, I rely on Mario for anything. You can follow me on Twitter at Jonathan_R. Alex?
RonCal33BPP. Make sure to reach out to us if you guys want about anything that you guys like or dislike about this episode. You know, we're going to kind of keep it going here and going into the future weeks. So make sure you guys are giving us some feedback there.
Also, a shout out to Rob for jumping in on this episode. That must have been one hell of a dinner. So
he probably knocked out.
No, he probably is sleeping. I know the Cubs ended up winning, but I know he has a long day at work and has an early wake up call. So we'll talk it out. But
we'll give him a pass.
No, I mean, it's all good. Guy puts in a lot of work anyways. Be on the lookout, though, for our baseball wrap-up and playoff preview here in the next couple of days as well. We all love playoff baseball time, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And lastly, you can listen and subscribe to the show on the Apple iTunes Store, as well as SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and all other major podcast outlets, except Spotify, which, you know, we're all Apple Music people anyway, so – again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you at the start of week 5.
Bye, everyone.